Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, Salam Kebajikan. Welcome to NAC International Webinar with the role of accountant to achieve sustainable development goals in digital transformation era as a topic. This webinar is the most highlighted as opening event of national accounting competition. Now, I'd like to introduce on International Webinar 2021. First, participants are encouraged to turn on the camera and use the virtual background that has been provided. Second, participants have to dress politely and neatly. Third, participants must use the username format that has been prepared by the committee, which is instansi_nama for the example, PKN STAN_anan. Fourth, participants use the raise hand feature to ask questions and start talking after being invited by the moderator. Fifth, participants are expected to fill in the attendance form which will be shown at the Zoom meeting. Sixth, participants are encouraged to enthusiastically follow the event from the beginning to the end. And the don't. First, participants are prohibited from using words that offend ethnicity, religion, race, and relations, or any negative language. Second, participants are prohibited from going in and out of the Zoom meeting during the event except with the permissions of the committee. And last, participants are prohibited from turning on the microphone before being allowed by the committee. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Regita Mega Arta. It is my pleasure to be Master of Ceremony on today's webinar, the role of accountant to achieve sustainable development goals in digital transformation era. Before we start, let's pray together our beliefs. Prayer. Done. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring to the Honorable Mr. Budi Waluyo, Student Council Director, Technique of State Finance STAN, as keynote speaker, the Honorable Ayu Adeline, Capstone Consultant at Undp Accelerator Labs, as today's panelist, the Honorable Professor Dr. Fauziah M.D. Taib, Professor in Accounting and Finance at School of Management, University Science Malaysia, as our panelists, the Honorable Mr. Iwayan Surya Wirasdiarta, student at Converdi University, as moderator, and all the respectable participants that joining us on today's webinar. Since this webinar is also broadcasted on PKN STAN YouTube channel, I'd like to give the warmest greet to you. Ladies and gentlemen, on this special occasion, we have several agendas as follows. First, opening by Master of Ceremonies. Second, singing Raya. Third, keynote speech by Mr. Budi Waluyo. Fourth, discussion session with Mrs. and moderated by Mr. Wayan Surya. Next, we have quizzes for 15 minutes. And we have Q&A session with our panelists. And last but not least, photo session and closing. As the perfect beginning, let's sit or stand together formally and politely to hear and sing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. For the operator, please start. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 pandemic comes like a black swan that no one can predict. But I hope you are all doing well amidst all of the challenges and changes during this pandemic. Today's webinar will bring issues related to sustainable development goals by focusing on the topic of the role of accountant in achieving sustainable development goals in the era of digital transformation. Several internationally acknowledged experts are invited to present as a speaker to provide a better understanding of the issues raised in this webinar. NAC International aims to provide a better understanding of the Sustainable Development Goals and the progress of the global project achievement. The accountant in achieving the goals of the Sustainable Goals project. Find out the impact of digital accountants in achieving sustainable development goals. And last but not least, to find out the opportunity and challenge brought by the COVID-19 pandemic to accountants in achieving the sustainable development goals. Although the Zoom meeting is brought in English, please don't forget to state your name, where are you from, and whom the question is for. To kick off today's program, I'd like to welcome Mr. Budi Waluyo Student Council Director at Polytechnic of State Finance STAN, to deliver his keynote speech. Mr. Budi Les Education is Ph.D. in Management, University of Leicester, School of Business, Ph.D. in Management, and in 2009, Mr. Budi graduated from Prasetya Mulia Business School, Master in Management. For Mr. Budi Waluyo, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Regita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, the honorable speakers, Ms. Dinar Ayu Adeline from the Undp, Professor Fauziah Taib from University Science Malaysia, and Bapak Wayan Surya, the moderator, and all the participants. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. For the participants from the other country, this is the special greetings for Indonesian that we need to greet the participants with different greetings because we are so diverse. And today, especially, I'm glad to be here.
Recording in progress.
All the participants of the event, the National Accounting Competition 2021. I have already known this competition or this event since I am a student. I mean, it is a regular event. It is a yearly event that challenges the accounting scholars into discussion on every single topics in accounting. So today in Indonesia, this is a lovely sunny day as always in Indonesia, and it's a bit hotter today in Jakarta. And I would like firstly to say welcome to all the participants for this event. Welcome to the National Accounting Competition 2021. So I believe all of you have a lot of interest in joining this event. This is a prestigious event held by the students of the Polytechnic of State Finance STAN, or in the past we are called the Sekolah Tinggi Akuntansi Negara, but it's now we are Polytechnic Keuangan Negara STAN or PKN STAN. So this is a prestigious event held by the students from the PKN STAN, and the topic or the theme for this year is really important for us in this time. The topic is about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. As you already understand that this is a global movement for all the countries to take action to end the poverty and to ensure that we can achieve a peace and prosperity. We have 17 SDGs, 17 integrated SDG goals that recognize the action in one area that will affect outcomes in the other countries. And we need to be aware that development must balance in terms of social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And for the youngsters, for you guys, that today the role of the youngsters, the young generation, your creativity, know-how, technology, financial resources, or financial knowledge from all of you is really necessary. I mean, this is the ultimate role of the youngsters to support how all the countries will achieve these goals. And this is a special mission in today's environment, in the era of pandemic, because the pandemic erases decades of gains in development. And I believe that the social and economic impacts of COVID-19 are set to widen the gap between people living in rich and poor countries. So this must be a global movement to tackle all these impacts so that all the countries, all the people in the planet will fly away, will be set down to reduce or to minimize the impact of COVID-19. And we believe that you guys, all the participants, can explore what's the impact of COVID-19 across countries, across scenarios. From you can learn from the honorable speakers that will deliver their material today. And particularly for the countries on the lower end of human development, how they can exceed pre-COVID development trajectories through a combination of policy choices and I think also investments and also governance and also social protection and so on. So particularly for the students, the youth in general, you have an ultimate role to utilize your creative ideas, to utilize your knowledge in technology and also innovation to achieve the SDGs. So if you are a student in accounting, I guess most of you are student in accounting or studying accounting because you are involved in the national accounting competition. So please bear in mind that accounting is not just a bookkeeping. It is not. Accounting is not just a bookkeeping system. It's not just a technique of recording transaction for generating financial statements. That is one part of accounting. I mean, that is accounting as a technology. But you need to be aware that accounting is alive in our society. Accounting has a role in the society. And personally for myself, I am interested in studying the role of accounting in society. So the theme of the National Accounting Competition this year is the ultimate theme, I think, as an accountant, if you are studying accounting, that we need to reflect what's the role of accountant for our society. So we need to analyze, we need to reflect, we need to force ourselves, we need to take a role. What can we do for the society? Because accountants are not only recording transactions, not only preparing financial statements. We have a role in the society that accounting can develop the society. It is not a joke that accounting has a significant role in developing our society. You can build a better society using accounting. So accounting has an active role in shaping the society. So this is the time for you, students, for accountants in general, to take a role, to participate in achieving the global goals. And I think that the SDGs achievements has achieved a remarkable progress. The role of accounting or the role of accountant for especially they have been participating in achieving these goals, in achieving this progress. So the impacts of accountants or the role of accountants in achieving SDGs are significant. And finally, I would like to say thank you for all the participants, all the honorable speakers and committees and partners in delivering this event. I believe this event will give you a lot of insights on SDGs, the role of accountant, and especially a difficult time during the pandemic. So this is the rare opportunity for students to study the role of accountant in achieving SDGs. Enjoy the webinar. I believe you will get a lot of knowledge from this event. Thank you for your attention. Selamat siang, good afternoon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Budi, for the enlightening remarks, especially on SDGs is something that every country has to achieve. And we also have to aware that development have to be balanced for social, economic, and environment. And as young generation, we also have special mission to utilize our innovation to achieve SDGs, what we actually can do for the society. And we also believe that accounting has significant role in shaping the society. That points are exactly what we need to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, here we have both national and international speakers to share their experience and insights related to our webinar's topic. To give a brief introduction on the role of accountant to achieve sustainable development goals in digital transformation era, and also moderating this webinar, we have Mr. Iwayan Surya Wirasdiarta, who's already here online. Mr. Surya Wirasdiarta is currently enrolled at Concordia University as a placement year international business management student. In 2019, he joined study abroad program in Toulouse Business School, France. He's currently a volunteering mentor at CDR London. Mr. Surya also has a lot of achievement in international field. One of them is in 2020, he became an Indonesian representative at international conference GCED partnership with UNESCO. And during this tough situation of the pandemic, he's also actively volunteering in Royal London Hospital as COVID-19 support and serving in Indonesia Student Association in the United Kingdom as the head of Appreciation Art, Culture, and Support Department. For Mr. Wayan Surya, the screen is yours.
Good afternoon Indonesian time and good morning in London time, and thank you for the MC for letting me to moderating this session. I think as Mr. Budiwalia said, this is like really important and really interesting session that we can learn together based on the topic is the SDGs and how it's going to be hand to hand in our development, especially in Indonesia as one country is still current in developing country. I think it's like going to be a really interesting talk show that we're going to run in 2 hours forward. But thank you also for the moderating. Thank you also for the MC for letting me to moderating this session. Like the MC said, I'm Surya Wirasdiarta. I'm gonna moderating this session for 2 hours forward. And before that, I'm gonna like to mention about how this SDG is and also trying to make this session is more interactive. I think that's how we can learn more. It's like more we put an effort, I think it's gonna be more knowledge or more things that we can gain. So in the beginning, I said to all the participants, all the participants of this talk show today, I think this is really great opportunity to learn about how SDG is hand to hand in our development. So be aware about that. So without further ado, this amazing talk here, we gonna welcome to the two of our speaker today, which is the first that gonna be Miss Dinar Ayu Adeline, which is she's public policy enthusiast with a 7-year experience in Indonesian tax authority, and she's collaborated with the Undp Accelerator labs in a research to promote the inclusive innovation for 7 developing countries and providing a policy recommendation for the all government and stakeholders. And recently, she also just graduated from the London School of Economic and Political Science. And she been rewarded as a British Council Future Leaders Connect 2021, which is held by the British Council. And she's representing Indonesia along 3 other representatives in the international level policy workshop held by the British Council. That is one of our honorable speaker for today. And second one, we're gonna have Professor Faudia Tabib, and she is currently the professor in accounting and finance at the School of Management, University Sains, Malaysia. And she is leading the accounting how to do to developing a new innovation accounting degrees curriculum for the Malaysian public. In terms of the engagement, she had the opportunity to share her thoughts and research finding the organizations such as the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, British Council, Perdana Leadership Foundation, and a few name of other organizations. So I think like personally are really interesting about this session. Without further ado, I'm gonna like to let the committee. There's a really interesting video that we need to watch a bit to be able providing more clear understanding about how this talk show gonna be. For the committee. Great, what an amazing video. So as we can see from the video, that's how the SDGs and hand to hand with our development, and especially now during the transformation era. So how's this gonna be developed and how it's gonna be fit into our society, our development, and our economics? Is the SDGs is like getting closer to our aims, or is getting away from what is need to be achieved? Like without further ado, I'm welcoming Miss Dinar Ayu for sharing her experience, knowledge about what she thought about these topics. Mr. Dinar Ayu, how are you today?
How are you, Surya? I haven't seen you for quite some time. I think you're now back in the UK, aren't you?
Yes, I am back in London currently.
Are you good? So, yeah, dear audiences, pardon my sudden excitement because, in fact, Mr. Surya Wirasdiarta here is a fellow PPI UK comedy as myself. So we were we contributed for the past 12 months for this Indonesian Students Association in the UK, and I'm super excited knowing that he's going to be moderating our session. So I think it's going to be a very nice and informative sessions for everyone, and you are welcome to collaborate with us and give us your thoughts, your comments, your 2 cents, whatever. So speaking about sustainable development goals, I think Surya has mentioned earlier, just a bit of a background. So my name is Dinar. And as Surya mentioned as well, I just graduated from LSE, getting my Master's Public Administration. And along with my study, I work with UNDP, in particular UNDP Accelerator Labs, and we're doing everything a little bit about everything in sustainable development goals. So I might be able to tell you all what is it actually the UN is doing currently to address their aim, which is no one left behind, which is very good, such a good one. And so that's it in short. Surya, do you think I should tell more about SDG, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's like brilliant for us, probably like in the UK, we probably like heard more about SDGs. But when I back like in 3 months ago, I was in Indonesia as well. Like when I was discussing to the society, they actually like not really aware how SDGs are. I think it's like there's a gap between how these SDGs need to be socialized to the society. That's personally thought. But how about you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, is something that the UN set back in 2015. So it's rather new, first thing first, and trying to address the massive inequality in welfare across nations and across countries. As you could see, us in the United Kingdom, so advanced, so advanced that when COVID struck, people in the UK were so shocked. Like people can easily stay at home because they're being paid, and to sit at home and not going to work. While in Indonesia, on the contrary, we can't get anything. We can't get any money. We can't get any food if we don't go outside. And the level of informal economy in Indonesia is massive. So people need to go to work, or else they won't survive. So it's a bit of a live and die situation, survival thing when it comes to go out and about in the pandemic. So this massive difference representing the massive gap between welfare across nation. And this is the thing that in 2015, leaders of many countries, I think it's 160 more countries committed to. So they set up these sustainable development goals pioneered by the UN. They're trying to address 17 different goals, from health to education. So you can easily Google it, SDG UN 2015, and you can see a set of different goals that leaders of countries that committed to it, trying to address in order to set a more inclusive world for everyone. And you might think it's something like so big, so conceptual, but it actually isn't. It's something just on your doorstep. It's something very close to you. It's as easy as giving people in West Nusa Tenggara access to water. It's as simple as making sure all the kids in our communities are going to school. And it's as simple as making sure that everyone who works exactly the same get paid fairly. So you might think it's something that you read in Google, or it's something that's so conceptual. It's just, a book set of goals, but it actually isn't. And the fact is, up to today, the UN has basically trying to fit SDG in many of their organizations and trying to implement it to the bottom of the community across the worldwide. So, as you said earlier, Surya, people might not know SDG in terms of the name, Sustainable Development Goals. It might sound so foreign, so new, but actually isn't. It's things that we have aimed for the past 76 years as a country, and also the thing that every country has aimed to achieve in their own kind of in their own, basically in their own sets of goals, in their own effort, with their own way, through their own policies.
Great opinion, and also like really like opening mind answer, Dinar, about how SDG is, because it's like it's a lot of people like thinks SDG is like you said like a set of rule, which is like maybe a bunch like 17 things that we need to achieve along is our development, but it's like actually it's not really is. It's just like a simple things that in our like you said in our doorstep, which is we can like do it like in our daily basis. It's really interesting takeaway from me personally, maybe also from the participant today. And I would like to hear more about how's the UNDP collaboration during your studies in the UK. Maybe you can share about that, your experience to the all participant. I think they're going to be great, Dinar. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be very, very happy to share it. But Surya, kindly remind me if I'm running out of time, okay? So, because I might talk for the whole day about this, and I can't stop because it's so exciting. So I get the chance to work with the UNDP Accelerator Lab. I think you guys know UNDP is UN Development Program, and they are basically one of the organization in the UN, apart from others, in trying to address and to assimilate these SDG goals into every country in the world through their programs. And one of them is UNDP Accelerator Labs, which is the organization that I worked for a year, in my last year in the UK. And what they aim to do is they're trying to address local problems through local solutions, and they're trying to scale it up. So the big aim and the big goal is to make sure that the welfare in that country is increasing, and the people themselves in the country can address the problem that they think they have. So let me give you a very, very simple example for this. So you might not be able to imagine this, but imagine if you live in Kenya, a country where the giraffe, the elephant, and the lion is a doorstep away from you. So you live in a house that's in the middle of a savanna, and the lion is actually living in the same savanna as you. So how to make sure the lion wouldn't go into your garden? So people in Kenya invented this kind of lamp. It's not fire. Maybe back then it was like a fire or something like that, but they discovered and they invented this kind of lamp that can detect a movement from animals like lions when they're coming a few hundred meters from your community area, and they will make it sounds like beep beep beep, something like that, and it will warn the whole community to protect themselves and trying to close the gate and something like that, making sure that the lion won't go in. So this kind of solution is something that only Kenyan would do. I don't think we need such solution. Like, who would get in into our garden? A cat or a dog? It won't be necessary to apply such an Indo, but it is hugely important, and it's all about survival in Kenya. So that kind of thing is called Grassroot Innovation, and it's spread all over the world. And one of them, of course, is in Indonesia as well, although the Accelerator Lab itself is recently established in Indo, but I work with 7 different countries, and one of them is Kenya, and then I work with Ghana, Bosnia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Iraq. So in Iraq, for example, they recently been in war. I think you've known all that. So the city is destroyed. They don't have any public facilities. They don't have any pharmacy. They don't have any school. And young people like us, don't work or go to school in Iraq. So you could imagine how hard it is. I mean, it might be easy for you guys to study, to join Zoom, to join such seminar by turning on your laptop, putting into electricities, and you sign into Zoom account, you register yourself, get in, you get those knowledge that you need for your future. But it's not the same thing as such in Iraq. People in Iraq needs to go to certain places to get internet, and trying to avoid people shooting at one another, and connect the laptop that probably survived from the last bomb that hits their area. And yeah, they really need some like huge effort to actually access education. So the people in Iraq, what did they do? The youth don't really work. It's not because they don't want to work, but they don't have anything to work for. So in order to making things work, they go into this like, I should say it's basically an innovation hub that they made themselves. And they're trying to educate one another on different technical issues, like how to fix a car, how to fix home appliances, like refrigerators, air conditioner, and all that kind of stuff. And they teach each other in order for them to do some work. So these kind of innovations are called Grassroot Innovations, and they were being supported by the Undp Accelerator labs. Are they being supported by the government? Not necessarily. So many different governments don't really pay attention to such thing. Iraq, for example, the government is mainly focusing on how to create peace in their own country and how to set up rules and regulations and making sure that the people live. While we're in Indonesia are trying to, make sure that everybody are okay, they don't go to war, everybody's well fed, people are getting paid equally, but not the same thing as Iraq. Iraq is just trying not to get hit by a bomb for a day, and that is quite an achievement. So the government in Iraq doesn't really pay attention to such, especially when it comes to unemployment. It's probably in the last in their agenda. So who would they want to turn to? In the end, international organizations like UNDP, WHO, ILO, trying to fit in different programs, making sure the youth are collaborating and working together to make sure that they have access to education, they have access to work, to labor market. If they're smart back then, before their country go to war, they can do remote work internationally with other companies across the nations, and they can work for different causes, and to make sure that they have their knowledge and ability and capacity improved. So those kind of things are must be overlooked by the government, and I think we all take it for granted here in Indonesia. We might think, oh, it's so easy to get work here. We'll graduate and we'll be, being put in positions in the Ministry of Finance or in other ministries that easily, and then can continue work, but we still complain. So that's like, when I talk to people in Iraq, I was like, oh God, I should be thankful. I should be really grateful because people here, they need to create the labor market themselves in order to be able to use their capacity. And what we do, we just complain. We're being put in some new office that we don't have our interest in. So it's a bit funny, and I think that makes me somehow think that we all should be grateful. And I also think that youth in productive age need to access same opportunity to be able to increase their capacity and then finally work and contribute back to the community. So it's a short experience that I encountered, Surya. But all in all, me and 4 of my other friends, we collaborated with the 7 countries that I mentioned before, and we tried to develop and to establish a sort of framework. What framework it is? It's a framework that is basically a set. I know it sounds boring, but it's a book, a guidebook, a guidance book, a published one now by the UNDP. Thank you, UNDP, you're awesome. It's published now. I think you could see that in UNDP Accelerator Labs blog. And we're talking about what actually needs to be done in order to support this grassroots innovation, scale it up, and make sure they contribute well to the community and brings greater good as we are all trying to achieve in the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have 3 different recommendations basically. For whom? So first, for the government and what the government should be doing if they want the grassroots innovations in their country flourished. And then we also give recommendations for local network. What I meant by local network could be anything. In Indonesia, we have loads of basically startup hubs. I think you already know that. Like basically like a group of people trying to support each other, a group of environmental lovers trying to support each other's business in trying to recycle food and recycles plastics and all the kind of stuff. So this kind of network should be maintained, of course, improved, and what they should be doing in order to support each one of them and scale them up so they can get bigger. People will know them better. And the last one, of course, I think we give a sort of recommendations for the innovator themselves. So what they should be doing, what we think. I think we conclude that they need a set of regulations and rules and supports for them to thrive. So in short, that's our conclusion and what I did for Undp Accelerator Lab, Surya.
Wow, what a great opportunity and experience. I think it's like hearing what you're saying. I was like feeling I was there. Like you're saying, like how's the Iraq situation? Like feeling, wow, how lucky we are, like you say.
Indeed,
but, yeah,
we are super lucky.
Yeah, it is. And like I think it's like for especially for me, it's like in sitting down in my bachelor degrees, we're seeing a lot. Like we are like sometimes we are worried what we're gonna do next, because sometimes it's like it's a first step of our career journey, isn't it? So we, like you said, there's a lot of us gonna be complaining about it's not set of interest is not really fitting in our work. But
indeed,
seeing a lot of different countries.
It's still a job.
It is.
Indeed.
Yeah. Great opportunity shared by Dinar. And also like another question, Dinar, like based on the role of accountants, like as how you are really enthusiastic with the public policy, and also you have the background as an accountant before, like for the older participant, because it's like majority of us is still in our bachelor degree, is there any like tips or tricks or kind of like how they can like at least implement like these 17 SDGs back to their daily life or a course or whatever like they're doing currently?
So I think first thing first, as I said earlier, I think we all should be thankful of being able to do our degree right now.
Right.
And when you ask about what to do and how could we contribute to sustainable development goals, and how do we actually implement it in our daily life? So before going there, I think, and as I told you earlier, SDGs is just by our doorstep. They have like 17 different goals ranging from energy to gender equality to educations to making sure there's no hunger in the world. So if we're a student, I think, of course, the first thing you should do is studying real hard. Whatever real hard is that trying to absorb whatever it is during your education time and making sure that they kind of increase your capacity. And at some point, you can always share it to anyone. So that's my first goal, because not everyone, Surya, could have the chance like us to actually manage our time and to do extracurricular on the side of your school or education. So as a student, I would always recommend your education comes first. So by learning, you've already increased your capacity in making sure that when you contribute back to the community, you have the capacity to be able to improve others, do good for others, and making sure you do your job well. So that is the first contribution. So if you aim to look forward to, you aim to do more than that, I will always contribute and see what do you actually like? What do you actually feel strongly about? That's very important. So I do feel strongly about, to be honest, I do feel strongly about the use of plastics, the use of disposable goods. So what I'm trying to do myself is I always bring my own tumbler, bring my own shopping bag, as simple as that. And saying no to whatever the tail girl asked, do you need a plastic bag? And in the marathon in Alphamart, and I said, I would proudly say no to it. Like, no, I bring my own bag. And that times 30 times in a month that you go to the supermarket, you have reduced 30 plastic bags. As simple as that. If you aim to do something even bigger than that, then you kind of have to find your interest in which you can focus on. So if you're interested in gender equality, then learn about it. Learn how gender equality applies to different cultures. Learn how gender equality issues currently is in Indonesia. And of course, now that the information is wide open everywhere, you could just easily check on Instagram and what communities support gender equality here in Indonesia. And they will always have public events which you can join, which you can enrich yourself about, and you can contribute and ask. And maybe at some point in the future, you can be one of them. You can be a founder of a gender equality organization. Like, who knows? Like, it all builds and grows from a simple interest. I do feel strongly also about us being healthy, which I think is it's such something so overlooked these days, because people in their late 90s, early 20s, we have such hectic schedule. We have to study all the time. We cannot overlook our own health. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to always remind people around me to stay healthy. Like, to spare 30 minutes every day to do workout and that kind of stuff. So they're all built from like basic interest. From your basic interest, you can be very passionate about what you love, right? And you easily don't spend that much energy as if you're working on something you don't like. So when you work on something you like, let's say you like swimming, that you probably would love to see the sea, the clean sea or something like that, and you can join the community. Surya is from Bali, you can easily join many different communities focusing on environmental issues there in Bali. People from different other areas can also see, like, every cities in Indonesia have their like small communities that supports their grassroots innovation, be it in agriculture sector, tourism sector, and gender equality and education sector. So it's so easy. Just the information is wide open there. All you need to do is know your interest, and you kind of depart from there.
Great, Dinar. Yeah, I think it's that really relevant. I would say like solution or relevant things that we can do as a student, like go as our interest, because it's like, as we can see in the bigger picture, I think that like kind of making the dot. Then when that dot starting, then we connect to each other dot, so they're gonna make a bigger picture, right? Then if we goes by that, they're gonna be like slowly you can like trying to achieve like the SDGs based on our interest. Yes, Dinar, thank you for that one. Yeah, and I think the other things that I want to share to the other participant, how things that because you've been like graduating from the public policy as well, and also you have like strong interest in the akuntan, then how this can be like, because it's like we currently know, all of us, in pandemic is not over yet. So is this pandemic like making the SDGs like even closer or making wider from the target that should be achieved, Dinar?
Thanks, Stuart, for the questions. Very difficult questions, in fact, because I personally think that the pandemic delays everything. Well, in fairness, I think it's a huge shock for every country in the world, for every community, for every government. Like, even the strongest and most robust government, like the United Kingdom, whom I witnessed myself, I find it really hard to survive the first few months of the pandemic. They didn't know what to do. So I personally think that the pandemic kind of hinder various attempts or efforts that the governments and the communities are trying to do in terms of implementing SDGs. Let's make a very, very simple, like not such a normative answer. Maybe just to make sure I deliver it well and you guys kind of understand of how the pandemic affect the SDGs implementation is, so when I got the job in the Undp Accelerator lab, the pandemics has happened for probably 6 months. So initially I should be able to travel to New York to the UNDP office and do my job there, and to collaborate with seven different developing countries there. But I couldn't. So I need to contact them virtually and get in touch with them virtually as well. And I literally asked them on, what do you think, how do you think the pandemic has affected your innovation? So in this terms, innovation, because all these grassroots innovations are aiming to achieve a certain sustainable development goal. So what I asked them is that how this affect your own innovation and how this affect your business if it's entrepreneurship. And they would answer, yeah, of course, it changed everything. Like there are some innovation, grassroots innovation in rural Philippines, okay? Not in rural, urban Philippines. So just so you know, again, we kind of have to be very thankful because internet in Indonesia is very affordable. Our neighbor country, Philippines, is very expensive. Their internet is hardly accessible by people living under the minimum wage. So what they do is, some people in urban Philippines, is basically in Jakarta, like the capital itself in Manila, they have this, ITC or Glodok, something like that. Yeah, so they're like centers and electronic centers in Manila, and in there you can easily find like a small PC in which you can pay 1 peso to access 5 to 10 minutes internet. It's like Warnet. It's like Indonesia 10 years ago. They still have such because their internet is so expensive, but it's the only way that the people who lives beyond the minimum wage can access internet. And what happened after the pandemic? There's no such thing. Everything is closed. So the pandemic also stops people from accessing information for those people who don't have the capacity to access it, don't have the resource to access it. So yeah, it is sustainable development goals that they're trying to implement would be slightly harder to achieve what they want to. However, I think there's always a rainbow after the rain. In the sense, COVID also creates new innovations, a new way to achieve the sustainable development goals. So from back then, some girls in Ecuador, they're trying to tackle sexual harassments in public places, and they're making this like community who get together every 1 day of the week or 1 day in 2 weeks, like a bi-weekly meeting, and they're trying to kind of educate girls on how to protect themselves in order to avoid themselves from getting sexually harassed. And what happened during the pandemic? They couldn't meet in person. So what they could do is they should meet virtually, and apparently it makes them easier for them to kind of spread the informations and invite more women who probably are actually scared to join in person, and now they can join and share their stories. And other areas in Africa, they invent different types of working helmet. Like, I know it sounds silly, but there are like people in rural Africa and India, they are not really able to socially distance, as in terms of they really have like such small space to work on. And so they created this like life helmet, they call it. And this life helmet will help them to still working, even though it's crowded and not being able to socially distance during COVID, make sure that they still can provide themselves some money and become their family's bread and butter. So that's it, Surya. So although the pandemic kind of hinders and slightly slowed down the sustainable development goals efforts in many different countries, it also kind of trigger the appearance of various different grassroots innovations and technologies, things that could also address sustainable development goals.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, really relevant, Dinar. I think there's always going to be two sides of the blades, right? There's going to be one side that maybe like slow down these SDG goals, that, but in one way is that create a new solution or innovation to achieve that solution. And I think there are also like another examples in terms of the environment things. There's a lot of pollution that been really extremely decreased by the lockdown, as how it's in, because there's not a lot of movement. I think that in one way there's also helped the SDGs achieve their goal to try to reduce the pollution in one way. But Dinar, I'd like to hear about now, because it's like probably like a lot of us is studying accounting as well, and also like in terms of the digital transformation area. Did you think like how is going to be the future for the accountant based on, because we all know a lot of technology are out there. There's a lot of system already been there releasing. So is that kind of like maybe there because it's AI also are there, maybe can be a AI maybe changing the role of accountants or things like that? What do you think about that, Dinar?
So you're actually asking me, would the role of accountant be replaced by the AI?
Yeah, we never know, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like kind of system
true.
now.
That's true. We never know. So I don't know if you guys read the book by Daniel Kahneman. I can definitely refer to that. You guys should read it. Like it's amazing. The Thinking Fast and Slow, and I think his second book is Noise. I think you all can read that. And he kind of tried to point out what's the difference between AI and machine learning and people themselves, and when it comes to decision making. And he argues that, of course, I mean, people's decisions are very biased. It's full of noise. If you get to think, investment. When you think about investment, you kind of think about, oh, you want as much money as possible. But if you do it your own, once you see $100 that you put in your investment can increase to 125, you should be satisfied. But you will be greedy and you want more. And then you kind of forget to cut it off where you should cut it off. And then in the end, the market drops and all you got is 95 and you lost 5, let's say. And that's how human is. That's how human brains work. It's so biased, so full of noise, and sometimes it could be greedy. So when it comes to machine learning and AI, it indeed is the future of many different things that we used to do manually. We used to do with humans' brain, but that doesn't necessarily mean it kind of rejects, I would say. So it doesn't necessarily, it eliminates the need of having a human brain. So how does a robot or an AI works? Before we get to the robot or to the AI, to machine learning, there's a human, the programmer, who actually sets what needs to be done by the robot. So there is a new role, might not be the investment manager themselves because they're all replaced by robots, but we have this like new programmers who actually set out all the threshold needs to be understood by the robot manager. So to answer the questions on, do you think the profession could be replaced easily by AI and machine learning? I would say no, especially the role of accountant. It's something that accounting is full of decision making, and it's so full of how do I put it? So full of everything that you do in accounting would affect the company you work for, would affect the stakeholders you're working with, and there is no such robot they would be able to understand your stakeholders' need and what your stakeholders is feeling about your report. So I simply would say the role of accountant wouldn't be replaced by AI or machine learning anytime soon. However, also I should point out that the development of AI and machine learning does mean a lot in different parts of the world, and Indonesia as well, of course. But because the technology kind of make it easier for people to access information, first thing first, and then for them to access resources. What I meant by resources could be money, could be asset, could be things they need to develop themselves to develop business or something they critically need for their family and community. A bit of example of how digital transformation has changed and contributed to sustainable development goal would be some, we might not think this is, you might think this is so backwards, but who keeps their money in their phone? I think we all do now through OFO or those kind of fintech, right? Like we all keep money in our phone. Probably we have our debit cards in our phone. But this might sound backward again, but not everyone in the world has a smartphone, right? So people in Africa, like probably 90% of them, they don't have a smartphone. So they're still using this like old school burner phone that you might be using. I think we both might be using it, Surya, for like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. Like they're like small non-color phone. And from that kind of people, you wouldn't expect that they have a debit card. Not in the world, not in a month of Sunday. They don't have any debit card. They don't have any Revolut or fintech bank or a genius bank in Indonesia, the bank that could easily give you money, and you don't have to access to such automatic teller machine in the middle of the savannah. So what do they do, and how to make sure these people in rural Africa would be able to access money? But they are pretty sure that all these people have those burner phones. So what they do is they're trying to develop a SIM that they put the money as a deposit in their phone. So in Indonesia, we call it pulsa. Yeah. I mean, it's so backwards, you don't really need pulsa anymore, right? We buy data package straight away. We have our pulsa to phone our families, but we do WhatsApp these days. Like who actually uses the pulsa for, calling someone? No one does it anymore, unless you're calling 021 or something like local phones. But who does it? But people in Africa, they do. So they have and they keep their money in their phone deposit. And if you could see, if you check on a website, World in Data in Our World, something like that. But digital money in form of mobile deposit is massive in Africa. So that is how digital transformation has actually contributed to sustainable development goals and how technology actually has changed. We can't provide them all smartphones and straight away teach them how to use smartphone because they don't really go to school. Really hard for them to understand the concept that like a huge trigger on huge developments in many countries. Like I'm putting Estonia as example, maybe. Like this is the most ideal digital transformation ever happened in the world because Estonia has his government all connected to all the system that you need. So everything is just a tap away from your phone and you can access the pharmacy, the doctor, your tax identity number, your social security number. You can buy the ticket through your phone and then your government also knows that you're buying ticket and you're traveling somewhere. You don't need visa, you don't need that, you don't need to bring your KTP identity card anymore. They got it all covered digitally. And it's been the mecca for e-government transformation, I guess, for so many different countries. And they've been also trying to teach different countries, even in the EU, on how to actually build a system that can help the government knows what's going on with their citizen. In the sense that when when we reach the point where the government has controlled the informations of the citizen easily, although this is a very debatable part of discussion, of course, whether they're allowed to use that or not. But when they are provided such information, I think basically the baton is in the government's hand on how to actually increase the citizens' welfare once the data is held. That's it, Surya.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I think that the last point is about data. I think it's like how's the data driven now is really kind of they saying data is the king. Sometimes like that, because it's like
data is the new oil, indeed.
Right, it is. So yeah, great answer about that. I think it's like everyone, including me, is like really got a good point about how these akuntan roles that not going to be replaced by the AI. However, because like you're saying, there's a lot of decision making that need to be in place as an akuntan, and also like it's really kind of like really core, because this is kind of drive the company performance in the future. Really great answer, Dinar. And I think it's like another question that hand to hand to elaborate that and
changed people way to collaborate, right? To meet, to do synergies. There's no more 1,000 miles doing a startup together. That is, so I get to build new accountant should be choice, an option easily fit anywhere. Like, however simple the business is, an entrepreneurship idea is, they all need a good background of budget planning. As simple as that. Like if me and Surya, for example, if we both want to build a new travel agencies across UK and Bali, for example, right? So I'm gonna provide you some people coming over to UK and from Bali, and you will guide them through all parts in London, let's say. I should think of how much money should I provide you with, and how much money would they be paying it for? Yeah. So that kind of services. So every single ideas that came up, especially startups and companies and like business ideas, they future. I do think that's a very simple example that I can give you. But come again, I think you were asking about how this accountant role will be developed after the pandemic. So I guess it goes slightly more than that, and I go deeper into the detail. Would be things about risk. I think accountant they all are studying accounting right now. I think we all know that in accounting we all have to disclose what the risk of a business, and I think the pandemic now has increased and exacerbate the needs of actually disclosing real risk of business, something that might be overlooked by business back 10 to 20 years ago. I mean, we all have like industry risk, and then we have like, foreign currency risk, this and that, but it wasn't really an important thing in the notes of financial statement. People working from home, right? Making people working from home affects a company greatly. In terms of working hour, in terms of how much money they should be paying the people, in terms of providing new facilities, buying new assets, and letting their existing assets like the office untouched, unused, unmaintained, and the depreciation goes on. So as an accountant, I would think it's a huge new challenge to set up a new way of thinking about risk and how it does applies to financial statement, and how a business can adapt and kind of mitigate the future risk, the future upcoming risk. So yeah, I think that's what I think should be something to take away from being an accountant in a pandemic. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think that great, Dinar. I think it's like, yeah, managing and also like how we handle the risks, like not only in the pandemic as well. I think it's like in the daily basis in terms to achieving the sustainable global development. So that is one of the really keys that I can say in personally. So, and also like we kind of for dinner, we kind of like really have 15 minutes left for like sharing session. I think like we kind of like is the run just the time is just flies. So we have like really great discussion, Dinar. So I think that's gonna be the last question for you, Dinar, about the again like we can because it's like trying to kind highlighting the current digital area. So is that like really important to us to achieving it? And because you already answered it, so I want to elaborate on it. So let's say there gonna be a lot of improvement regarding our economics in the past, like let's say the end of this year, because it's like everything's like opening up slowly, like we can say. So as a accountant, as again, so it's in the seeing of the accountant perspective, Dinar. So what do you think about these SDGs goals, and how is it gonna be? How can I put it? So how is it gonna be to make? Should we make a new system, or we just like applying a new system based on what we have right now, or we need to like develop our system based on the current situation in the future, Dinar? And how is it gonna be adapt if we are using a new system? Because we all know to adapting to the new system is like kind of really hard, because there's no one can like easily to fit into new changes or kind of like dynamics into business. Then maybe is there any solution for you from you, Dinar? Thank you.
Okay, so I think I'm trying to kind of put it in a clear way, or you can tell me if I understood it correctly. If I understand this correctly, we're asking about how would I think the development of sustainable development goal effort would be after the pandemic? Would we kind of switch to new systems entirely, or do I think we would find it hard to actually switch to new systems? Is that correct, Surya?
Yeah, exactly. Then how is it gonna be? Because it's like in terms of the accepting the dynamics and accepting the change is not that really easy for some of you. Is there any tips for that, Dinar? Thank you.
Yeah. So come think of it, I think we all agree and we kind of like give ourselves a huge round of applause because human beings are actually resilient, right? So two things that I was pretty surprised about when it comes to COVID pandemic. I think I do have much excitement and interest on human behavior, but I personally think the pandemic shows how resilient people are with changes. We might not be able to imagine ourselves in such position 2 years ago. Like if it trace back October 2019, before all of this happened, we might think it's a crazy idea. It's a crazy idea not to go anywhere for 3 months and stay inside the house and attending classes online. It's a crazy idea. I didn't think we back then had the imagination to do so, nor have the capacity to do so. But after the pandemic strikes in, people could be so obedient. First, that was what I was surprised about. People could be so obedient to what the regulators are saying. Many of us don't really think COVID was real. Could you believe that? I think we all know some people have this tendency of thinking that COVID is a part of a conspiracy or something like that. But I don't think it's such a real it's a real disease at all. And they were thinking this is an insane thing. I think me myself was in a kind of a denial phase of COVID because we don't know what it is. We've never seen one. Or probably people close to you don't get COVID. So you don't really see real people with COVID. I think you see that in the news, but no one around you got one. So you were like, is that even real? And then you kind of ignore. But even though you could ignore back then, the first few months of pandemic, humans are exceptionally obedient, and they stay inside the house, and they were absolutely resilient to such pressure, being 24 hours inside, staying with the same people, doing the same thing every day, doing the same routine you do every day, and had to switch to a totally new system of working, studying, being in a family. So in a book that was published by my director in London School of Economics, Minu Shafiq, newest book, titled "What We Owe Each Other: A New Social Contract." So you can all write it down because it's a really nice book, I guess. Brilliant one, because she said that basically, I think she's rather more Keynesian, because she thinks that problems should not all be addressed by the government, and I think it's a responsibility of people, community, and family themselves to solve problem. And this is sort of so in line with the grassroots innovation I mentioned earlier, but also it kind of shows how during the pandemic all we can lean on is ourselves, first thing first, and our family, our closest one, and the community around us, and it becomes very visible how the role of government could be so close, it's so far. If you get what I mean. I mean, we don't really being affected by what the government is doing, but somehow we are being affected by all the new sets of regulation that they are setting. In this sense, I guess, to answer your questions, we are very resilient, and the system has changed. I don't think we can go back to anywhere near 2019. So yeah, nowhere near 2019. I don't think, as much as people are very excited of working from the office back, they now kind of find the pleasure to work from home. They now can find the new opportunity to work with people from different countries, from different continents, and being in touch with them virtually. And how people confidence has changed. Those people who weren't actually so active and talkative in class, could also be very chatty in the chat and Zoom. And I think that somehow shows how resilient people are and how the behavior could change easily by a thing called COVID-19 pandemic. And I think I arrived to kind of like conclusions where new system will always grows into new directions. Even before COVID, I think we all know that the development of shopping and e-commerce was a huge boom. Like it's a hit. No one actually goes to stores anymore. Like Indonesia is one of the biggest market that goes to e-commerce right now, and they don't really shop in those department stores anymore. They can open their unicorn startup e-commerce now to just have whatever they want. COVID strikes. Literally, no one goes to the department store now. Even my house assistant and my grandma is purchasing things from online shopping now. And my grandma, she's 70 something. She's like, can you buy me my medicine, please, through Hello? Okay, I'm trying to not saying the brand, but the medicine e-commerce brand. So I was like, wow, this is surprising. She knows where to buy medicines online. So I don't think we can look back and we can really go back to where it was. And I think people are now has changed. No one actually do our old habit anymore. And the system is now, I think, going to a much better direction, to be honest, because we don't work on our own. Back then, I think sustainable development goals is addressed differently by each country. But now, after the pandemic, now that everyone can work together, being collaborative so easily, and now that we have something that we all find in common, which is the pandemic, and we need to kind of recover from that collectively, together, across nations, globally, like they're all now working in collaborations. There's no such thing as competition now, like each countries, oh, the hype thing now is collaborations. And I think by that, the system has now grown into a much, much better direction. Like the new merger of two big unicorn in Indonesia also shows how massive it could be if you work collaboratively. And I think we all have the capacity to work in a new set of ecosystem. And I think we're ready for it, Surya. We're also ready for it. And this is only making us much better person. We're so much more resilient now. We're no longer whining about going to the office and commuting 2 hours time, and we're kind of like, oh, we're being very thankful having more time at home to take care of ourselves. But then now also we kind of be thankful if we can go out again and actually meet people. So we become a much more grateful person. I think we're all going to the way better direction, Surya, at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the way you put it, because it's like kind of like showing how the process is like start like by the pandemic hit. So there's need to be changed, need to be addressed, but how we don't know in the beginning. So people start like kind of believing, or is that real or not? So kind of like adjusting what it's look like. Then after that, it's gonna be look like, oh, is this real? So we kind of like build our resilience. I think the majority of the change is gonna be start from that process. We start in the beginning, it's like not believing, oh, is it for real? Is this need to be changed or blah blah blah? So and again after that, there's a some stage that in our mind, oh, this is what really believing, and there's gonna be skills that we can build in the change that hand to hand. I think that's a really great answer, Dinar, and you put it really nicely in terms of how the process is. And yeah, and last but not least, Dinar, there's another last question for you. And is there any advice that you can say to all of us here as participants, like seeing how the SDG is, and also how's this content in the current of like after pandemic or during pandemic and the digitalization? Is there any advice for us? Thank you, Dinar.
Advice? Sorry, I don't think I'm in anywhere near the position of being able to give any advice for anyone. I mean, honestly, I think we're all fighting the same thing here.
Right.
I think we're all fighting the same thing. It's just that I've probably have slightly more experience than you guys who are doing your bachelor degree now, just slightly. But I think we're all learning. We're all currently learning, and we're all trying to kind of fill ourselves with different examples, trying to look up to different people, and trying to get a sense of what success is, right? So don't worry, guys. It's a long process, and up until now, I am still experiencing the same thing as you. I'm always trying to find our new role models and trying to see basically what I'm trying to achieve in the near future, what I'm trying to achieve in 5 from 10 years. Basically, I feel the same worries and the same issues as you guys, genuinely. But I think that's the learning curve, Surya. I mean, that is the sign that we are all in the learning curve together. Like we feel so lacking of different things and feel the need to actually learn new things. We feel the need to read something. We feel the need to hear our friends, his or her experience, and feel sort of kind of envy and really want to be like him or her. But it's a real process. Everybody's actually. Oh, thank you. for yeah. So I think we all feel such feelings, and I think it's a good thing because by feeling the need to develop ourselves, I mean we're in the middle of the learning curve and we could only go up. So if we go back to the topic and the discussions of sustainable development goals and what needs to be done and how do I think the digital transformation should affect us, I think it only shows that this is the best moment to actually learn something. The world is wide open, but there's no more boundaries to study anything abroad anymore. Back then, we were like, oh, it's so hard to study in Harvard. It's impossible to study in Yale. It's impossible to study in the UK unless I get a scholarship. Blah blah blah. But now you can easily open different websites, like education websites that provides you a certain courses from different universities in such cheap price, in which I was just surprised. I was like, why would I even pay 25 grand to study in the UK for a year? It is, and I could get the same material with the same course. It's something that is like, you only have to pay, I don't know, $25, I guess, for the whole course. But all you need is commitment, like to actually spare time, to actually set aside an hour or two a day to study, fill in the models, do online learning. I know it's super boring, but you can always take your laptop somewhere nice and just study from there. So again, I would point out how important it is to utilize and taking this opportunity as like the best time for you to have access from literally anywhere in the world, because the world is now wide open with its new global and collaborative system, and to achieve your best from there. So yeah, I think Surya, it's a great way to start. Great way to start.
It is, yeah, I completely agree, because it's like I feel back then in 2018 when I'm start my study abroad, it's like kind of like really hard for me. I find it personally, because it's like there's a limited resources, limited information that I can access. But now then, it's like seeing how the pandemic create things like we said, the transformation and all the change, like kind of like giving us like a lot of advantages in one way, because it's like we can access, like you said, there's a lot of open university, which is like providing a lot of material resources that we can like to be able to increasing our knowledge and also like gaining more to and also ready for the next step of our lives. I think it's like really important that advice, or maybe kind of like information that you provided to us and also to all the participation that is joining us right now. Dinar,
do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible to get some questions from your audience, or do you think we have another session for that?
We're gonna have another session. So in the couple of minutes, I'm gonna invite the second speaker, Professor Fauzia. So she's gonna maybe explain about a bit about the digitalization and also have some basically like similar things that are based on her experience. And after that, they're gonna be quiz taken by the committee. It's like, I know this has been really great talk show. So there's a quiz. After the quiz, then we're gonna have the Q&A session, Dinar. So that's how is it. But again,
sounds great. Sounds great to me.
Yeah, great discussion that we have today, Dinar. I think it's like I'm gonna see you again on the Q&A session. But if you have any idea or opinion to add laterally, it's like kind of really open for me. And also for the second one, I'm gonna invite Prof. Fauzia to the platform, and she's gonna share a bit about how, because she's like have engagement and opportunity to share her thought and a research finding at the organization, such as like a World Bank, Asian Development, and also she's really active and also engaged as the new innovative accounting degrees in curriculum in Malaysia, and also she's like kind of accounting deans, Council of Malaysia Public and University. Maybe she can maybe elaborate more and also share more to the all participants that we have today, Dinar. So for the Prof. Fauzia, the platform is yours. Oh yeah, for White to she's joining us, I'd like to again remind to all the participants and what that already been mentioned by our first speakers, Miss Dinar Ayu. So there's a lot of things that we can gain in terms of how the COVID or the pandemic to achieving the sustainable development goals. There's a lot of things that are key point that we can take, like firstly, like how's resilience that built, and also how's the accountant roles that been not going to be changed by the robotic or AI or digitalization. However, we need to still be aware about how we maintaining our risk, and also how this opportunity can be taken as a part of the learning process that in the future that we can do it better and professionally. So yeah, for writing Prof. Fauzia, we kind of like, if there are any maybe address question or things like that, I'm gonna open it once for the while we're writing. So is there any question from the participant to address to Miss Dinar about the what have been discussed in a couple of hours? Is there any question from the participant? So feel free to have a chat in the box, then, or maybe you can raise your hand, or maybe you can like interactive point. So I don't think so. I think like everyone is still waiting for the session. Yeah, without further ado, Prof. Fauzia, I'm welcoming you to the platform.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Surya, for inviting me, and also thank you to the organizer. Can you all hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well, Prof. Okay. Fauzia. Nice to meet you. Firstly, Prof. Fauzia. I heard a lot about you, and also what's amazing career and also opportunity that you've been all along as an accountant and also as a professor in the Malaysia. So now maybe you would like to share a bit of your experience and also how you find the accountant to all the participants, which is majority is studying in accounting. So yeah, how you find it, and also like what is the dynamic like during the learning process until this now career. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Surya. Let me just introduce a little bit about myself. I guess I must be the oldest person in the room. You all are very young and vibrant, and look at the way you speak, very impressive. My background, I have a little bit of corporate life as well as being an academic. I had also a chance to work in UK back in the 90s for about 4 or 5 years. Then I'm back to Malaysia again. Before I was working with one of the conglomerates in Malaysia. So got a bit of both worlds. So in that respect, I enjoy both worlds really. Both has its own challenges. And given COVID and also this AI and all this technology coming in, of course, things are changing. Things are very dynamic, never static, it keeps changing. And my latest involvement with the Malaysian Institute of Accountants and also all the accounting professional bodies in the world, we are now revamping the curriculum, since most of you may be students learning. So we are revamping the curriculum for Malaysian public universities, Bachelor of Accounting program, to incorporate all these new elements that you were discussing earlier. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, what a great opportunity that you've been have in the early days. So like to start and start discussing today talk show today. So because we're discussing a lot about SDGs and how it's functioning and also what is the aim of it, I would like to heard a bit about so how's the SDG is processed and how is it in Malaysia itself, and maybe you can share it to the because you are currently maybe there, maybe you can share a bit of perspective from there so everyone can hear about how is the SDG is been provided or been developing in the societies in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a lecturer. So for 25 years or so, I've been lecturing both abroad. Before I was teaching in the United States and then at Lancaster, and I had been staying in Malaysia teaching for a long time. So for that, if I may say, I know it's a talk show, but hearing just somebody's talking without the visual will not enhance the learning. So for that, I'd like to seek your permission, Mr. Moderator, to share my screen so that students, lecturers, and whoever is joining with us today, they could see and could follow the arguments very closely. So if I may share.
Yeah, yes, that's fine.
1 minute and on.
That's fine. I think take your time, Prof. Fauzia.
Okay. I'm not so used to using when you want to share your Microsoft PowerPoint. What do I press? Do I press desktop or do I press Microsoft PowerPoint? I tried that, but it didn't work. How do I share? If you could help.
Is there a committee that can help about the slide? So just I think after this screen share, maybe just press the PowerPoint and should become up.
Yeah, I know. I tried that, but somehow it doesn't work. Let me try again. Bismillah.
Or maybe the second option, maybe if you can share it the slide to this one of the committee, so then the committee can help to share it to the audience.
Sorry about. I will share it with Melati. 1 minute.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think takes your time, Prof. Fauzia.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I missed a little bit about your background, Mr. Moderator. Perhaps you could share with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently studying in Coventry University in UK, Prof. Yeah, I'm in my final year now. I'm studying regarding international business and management. Yeah, but also I just finished my placement year working experience in London. So yeah, I just back as well to UK in 1 week ago. This is like,
so you're now in UK?
Yeah, I'm currently in UK now. It's like early morning here.
I know it's kind of difficult, isn't it, for you?
It is, but I think kind of like we're getting used to it. Like the Dinar says, that's how it's life. Sometimes it's like life is like keep changing, right? So when we are ready for change, I think there's the opportunity where we can race on.
Okay, I've shared mine with the secretariat. Perhaps they can.
I think. Yeah, I think the committee gonna share it in a couple of seconds. So just bear a minute.
So you are working at Coventry University at the moment?
Yeah, I'm final year student in there, Prof.
You're doing your PhD, right?
No, I'm still bachelor. I'm still young.
Oh wow! Oh, no wonder you look so young. Okay, Mr. Surya, that's fine. Excellent. So I suppose you are studying accounting as well?
Yeah, kind of like still in economic field of studies, but I'm focusing on international business and development.
That's good. That's the way forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
maybe while waiting for the secretariat to put it on, I will just mention. And I'm sure many of us are very much aware about the sustainable development goal, SDGs, where there are 17 SDGs that has been introduced in the year 2015, and the world hope to accomplish all the 17 because this is a very ambitious plan of action for people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The whole idea is that they're going to achieve all this, leaving no one behind. The whole key point there is leaving no one behind. So when this idea of we first started with Millennium Development Goal (MDG), and then in 2015 they shifted it to become SDG. Go on next. Go to next, will you? Okay, so this is what Surya has asked me about looking, how do we understand the progress of SDG? So being a lecturer, I thought it is incumbent upon me to share this, a little bit of information, so that we know, at least we learn something today. Next. And this is why I'm saying that SDG were introduced in 2015 to replace the Millennium Development Goal. Under the SDG, as I mentioned, through people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership, the whole idea is to benefit everyone, leaving no one behind. And from no poverty as the SDG number 1 to partnership for the goals for SDG 17. Under the SDG, we have 169 targets and 244 indicators to watch for. If you know, this is a very general information about SDG. Next. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Just to give you an idea, we learn, the accounting that you do now actually just show one number at the end. They call it bottom line, or they call it profit and loss, whether you make a profit or you make a loss. But through this initiative, we are reporting not just one number that is the bottom line, but it is known as triple bottom line, because we look at not just numbers, not just money in terms of economics, but we looked also at social and environmental. So these are the three spheres, if you like, three spheres of sustainability, where future accounting will not just, or I wouldn't say it's future because it's already being practiced to some extent. However, the sustainability or triple bottom line is still much of it on a voluntary basis, except for one country in the world that has moved towards mandatory requirement, that is South Africa. Next, let me talk a little bit what does this SDG means. Give you one example. These are the SDG goals. The whole idea is that we want to save people, we want to save planet, we want to create more partnership in order to find peace and to achieve prosperity. So all these really, the goals of sustainable development goals. So we are looking at these 5 P's. We protect people, we protect planet, we conduct more partnership. In the end, we would like to achieve more peace and also prosperity. Next, please. So I'm going to present you some facts and figures with regard to SDG progress. Where are we? But I can't afford to show all. So I'm just going to use one example. That is SDG 1, that is no poverty. Can we move to the next slide? So like I said, SDG number 1, the whole idea is to end poverty in all its form, everywhere. So the whole idea, so that everybody will be out of poverty by the end of 2030. That's the goal. However, as you could see from the diagram here, we have not even achieved that. In fact, we are, way behind, was off track to end poverty by 2030. There's no way we could achieve that even before COVID. When COVID came, it makes it worse. So before COVID, the baseline projection suggested that 6% of our global population would still be living in extreme poverty, very, very poor. So when we had this COVID, then the numbers is pushed back to over 70 million of people will still be in extreme poverty by 2030, and that's not a good news. Next. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, COVID brought with it a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, as we have discussed earlier with speaker number 1. So, with this COVID in place, about more than 71 million people are pushed into extreme poverty in 2020. Because many people were out of job, people, are really scrambling even to get a day meal all over the world. So job losses, economic lockdown, and all makes the most vulnerable people, that means the poor, they're already poor. When the COVID-19 came in, they were pushed to become extremely poor, or what we call poverty. Next. So similarly, even before COVID, the social protection or the social net are not many people were enjoying it. They estimated about 4 billion people did not benefit from any form of social protection. When we say protection, when you are out of work, if you stay in most developed countries, then you are eligible for unemployment benefit. That means you can still apply to get assistance from the government. That is made possible because in the West, their salary are taxed at a very high rate, so that half of it or a lot of it will go towards the social protection. So in case you are sick, in case you are not employed, then you can always resort to that benefit from social protection. So 55% of world's population did not get any form of social protection. And if you read here, it says young workers are twice as likely to be living in extreme poverty as adults workers. And with the millennium, as you can see, a lot of them do not like to be tied down to a company, working for one company for the rest of their life. They like to work on as a freelance or, entrepreneurs, which is very good when the economy are booming. But when economy are down, if they don't provide for themselves, they don't pay the employee provident funds, so that in case of hardship, they can always recourse to that. So that is a problem at the moment. Many are from developing countries where these 4 billion people did not benefit from any form of social protection. Next. So aside from COVID, every now and then you heard Hurricane Katrina, you heard the natural disasters, landslide, or earthquake happening all around the world. And all these disasters actually make poverty becomes even worse. About $23.6 billion are lost from 63 countries in 2018 alone. These are direct economic losses. And on top of that, they will only impact the poor or the extreme poor the most. So the point I'm making next. So as I mentioned to you earlier, there are 244 indicators. There are 164, if I'm not mistaken, targets of what we must achieve in order to be out of poverty by 2030. So Malaysian government, as well as the world organization, also target all these targets to remove or to eradicate extreme poverty, to mobilize resources and whatnot. So you could read from number 1 to number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and all this. So I actually circle some of these SDG 1, in which companies or countries, of course, all this can be made possible by countries' initiative. But even then, companies or firms can also help to reduce that by, for instance, employing pro-poor and gender-sensitive policy framework in their company. So if they have such policy in the company, if the companies have this policy that they will give priority job to those who are from this disadvantaged group, the very poor people, those are the disadvantaged women, for instance. So if they have these policies in place, then chances are that particular companies can help the country to achieve sustainable development goal. Similarly, for equal rights, not just to ownership for companies, then equal rights to employment and onward helps. And also whether companies actually help to build the areas that are affected by these natural disasters or, COVID and on, those are part of CSR. That CSR stands for corporate social responsibility that companies can do in order to enhance or elevate some of the challenges that the country presently has. Next. Okay, I think, Surya, if you want me to stop here, then I'll stop so that I can take your question. And if there are issues that we need to show again the slide, I'll be open to it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's fine, and because we're gonna towards this accountant due to help. I think this is kind of like the keys that we need to answer as well. I think it's fine to carry on for now.
All right.
I will let you know when with the discussion or talk show gonna be.
Okay. Thank you, Surya. Okay. What can accountants do to help? I mean, you kind of wonder, hey, what can we do to help? We don't own the money. We just report. We just write, whatever. We just record the transaction that has happened, and then we compile all those data, and then we prepare a report. So this is where I think accountants can be of extreme help to help promote this SDG goal. Next slide. So to me, the most important role of an accountant is be an agent of change. All of us need to be an agent of change. But before we can change, we must be clear over what is required for us. As I was showing to you the slide earlier, I mean, it's extremely heartbreaking to see family that don't have anything to eat at all. We may not, you may not, I may not experience that. We have plenty of food already on the table. In fact, to the extent some of us are just wasting a lot of food. So the first thing that we need to realize that in order to change, we must understand what does it take for us to help this? How can we help within our role as an accountant? First and foremost, like I said, read up more about Sustainable Development Goal. And I'm sure many of you are Muslim and Christian are here, and maybe some of you are Hindu. I mean, all religion for that matter will always promote, giving a helping hand to people around you. Community would not be a community if it's not because of the subset of the community that is family around the community. So we must put our hands together and we must fight this cause. That means if I have enough food to put on the table, then surely some of the food I can share. So we must understand this agenda of achieving, prosperity for all. It's not just I prosper at the expense of somebody else. It's a joint prosperity. So this agent of change would involve something like, next slide. Because I know a lot of times students, they just listen and they just get lost. So that's why you need a bit of talking point so that student could follow what is being discussed. Next slide. All right. If you look into any literature, you say in order for you to change, there are 4 steps that would involve in any change process. First, now I want you to ask yourself, which state or which step are you in now? Are you still at denial stage, meaning, we don't have a problem. Problem is theirs, not ours. So if you say that kind of answer, that means we are still in denial stage. Or once that change is forced upon us, many people will react to it by saying, no, I refuse to change. So for so long, we do not accept the change. We do not accept the fact that we, all of us, not just me, not just you, but every one of us here need to come together and change that. Then only we can make a very resounding outcome. We could achieve a resounding outcome. So once you have accepted the change, once you know that this is something, it's not a choice, something you don't have a choice, but rather to proceed with it, then you start exploring what are the things that you could do in order to help. I hope many of you are in that third step where we are just exploring how could we help. As you heard, the first speaker were already talking a lot about, money is in your handphone, at a press of button now, money get transferred. And if you hear the latest development that is happening around the world, Soon, all this paper money, or what we call fiat money, will no longer be used. A lot of countries, has already left cash basis of fiat money. Example would be Sweden. Sweden, I think almost everybody now transfer money they are using digital money. China, the Federal Bank of China or the Central Bank of China has already piloted this project, and soon everything, what you buy, what you spend on, what you purchase, either through Shopee, through Amazon, or whatever platform that you're using, everything will be captured. So they are trying, on one hand, the good thing about this digital money is that they're going to stop all these black markets from operating. So meaning criminals or even those terrorists or whatever who wish to transfer money, they can no longer use cash, because cash will not be legal and tender, will not be accepted. So everything will have to go through your computer or your handphone, where everything will be digitized. And it's not easy to change all that if they use blockchain, actually using the ledger to block so that you cannot go and alter. But the downside of using this digital money is that you will no longer have privacy to your life. Everything will be monitored. Everybody, data, whatever you do will clearly be displayed. And authority or non-authority, if some hackers hack into the system, they could also know where those monies are coming in, where they are going, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of debates, and that's another story if you like to listen to it in the next time, inshallah. Next. So what I'm saying is that as an accountant, can we move to the next slide? Okay. So I'm going to talk about digital transformation. In briefly, I already spoke to you about digital money, with all this transaction being digitized. As the first speaker correctly said, accountants will not be short of job. But the only thing is that our job scope will change considerably. So instead of just dwelling with the debits and credits, grappling with preparing the accounts, those are already overtaken by AI and the technology. So what is more important of accountants, that you will remain to be what you are used most. The most value that accountants would contribute to any decision making would be the advice. So accountant will be using a lot of advice. You have to give a lot of advice to your client, how to stay ahead of competition based on the results of the financial statement. So all this already coming in. Next. So I'm going to show you again what is happening. The external environment, COVID-19, and you see a lot of unstable geopolitics is happening. China is putting in their ships, their warships, their warplane over Taiwan, even in the South China Sea, that Vietnam, Malaysia, even Indonesia, more so Philippines, are complaining. And that's not just happening here. Everywhere, and you see that happening in Afghanistan, the development in Yemen, where they're in war, Iran conflict, the US and China, US and everybody else. So all these are creating a lot of unstable environment, where economy, you'll see now, not just because of COVID, but because this unstable geopolitics, and because we are now very much reliant on each other, because we know that producing or manufacturing is cheapest to do in China. That's why a lot of American companies are there. But we do understand that the moment we have some kind of friction, between the two countries that could upset the whole country's supply chain. And the reason there's a lot of shortages in chip at the moment because Indonesia, Malaysia in particular, because we are very much reliant on the E&E, electrical and electronics. There's a lot of chips that we produce. The moment Malaysia in under lockdown, a lot of factories cannot operate at full capacity. And that's why you're seeing the prices of your gadgets, including computer, tab, your handphone, are very, very expensive now because there's an acute shortage of that. And you're also seeing the development of AI, artificial intelligence, data analytics, the blockchain, whatever, all the technology are quickly happening. And then, as I mentioned to you earlier, accountants are changing its function rather than doing just an operational record keeping and on, it's moving to more the important function of advisory. So you students, when you graduated, when you join a company, people no longer depend on you whether or not you can do your consolidation right, whether or not you can do your debit and credits correct, whether you can get it balanced. That's no longer a concern because now the computer can do it in split second. The moment you key in the data, all the real information will be displayed on the dashboard. So that a lot of, in fact, we are seeing a booming industry in Penang where I am now. A lot of companies are offering, this is what they call it, GBS, Global Business Services, where they're doing the functions like payroll function, purchasing or procurement functions, all are centralized and relayed or given to this particular company to do it because they can do it very, very efficient. So you see all this happening all these changes are happening. And then you see new jobs opportunities are also available. Many of these global business services that I'm talking about, they really need an accounting graduates to help them because an accounting graduates are able to read the financial statements than the non-accounting graduates. Having said that, however, they also need graduates who can do coding, who can understand algorithm better. As I said, that's the reason why we are changing the accounting curriculum so that it will incorporate all of this. And with that, with new jobs comes new affiliation, new certification, and on. And as I mentioned, on the right, you could see the coding, blockchain, fintech. These are all what drives a lot of industry now. And there's a huge demand for integrated and sustainability reporting. I will come to that where I'm going to share with you the European Union are also changing. At the moment, integrated reporting and sustainability reporting are just voluntarily done by companies. No countries in the world have mandated it except for South Africa, as I mentioned to you. So therefore, you see the world is changing. They are moving to new space, new level. Digital intelligence is almost, very, very certain you have to be there. And more importantly, having all this digital intelligence doesn't guarantee things will get done the way it should. Because again, be human is also very important. The empathy, the sympathy, because we need to drive the SDG along with all this technology, along with all these challenges. But it doesn't mean that we're going to have to be very digital and we are forgetting that we are human after all, and we need to act like human and we need to be human again. So that's my point for this part. Let's move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Next slide. Sorry, this is just a repetition. Okay, so what opportunities and challenges brought by COVID-19 to accountants in achieving those SDGs? Again, as I mentioned to you, the importance of integrated and sustainability reporting. a lot of companies out there would wish to hire accountants that can prepare, that can integrate the strategy that the companies take and tie in with the reporting at the end in order to convince stakeholders, not just shareholders, all the stakeholders to come on board with them. So it is very important that graduates of accounting knows how to do or knows the principles behind the sustainability reporting and also integrated reporting, because to me, that's the future where at the moment there's a lot of shortages in terms of accountants who can write well and who can integrate strategy together with the reporting. Next slide. All right. And this is the 6 top trends in sustainability reporting in 2021. As you could see, point number 1, increased demand for more accurate data, meaning a lot of big data, a lot of data analytics are needed. So that is the reason you must know at least the basics of those in order to be able to interpret those data or to segregate. You can write, although companies can hire, but it is more advantageous if the accountant themselves knows, the kind of requirement, so they know that this algorithm can be set so that the data can be extracted in a manner that are beneficial and useful for the company. So this is anti-corruption, climate change, labor and human rights are dominant themes among disclosure requirements. People will expect companies to report more on all these things in their financial report. So there's also growing importance of Scope 3. What do we mean by Scope 3? Emission and climate action. Because Scope 1 is just reporting about your own operation. That means the company's own operation. Whereas Scope 2 talk about power consumption. How much power are you using and how much are you saving? How much emission are you directly emitting? And as I said, the growing importance is more on Scope 3, where this is about indirect emission from value chain. Supposedly you source your materials from China. For the products to be reaching Jakarta, how much carbon footprint have you produced? So even to the point, those information are being stressed upon by stakeholders. They would like to see that. As I mentioned to you earlier, EU has set a new standard. They want to make sure that companies are reporting consistently because they want to ensure the business, your company, the company are measuring relevant objectives in order to meet EU's political ambition. EU, they make a pledge. They're also among the signatory to the Kyoto Protocol and also the Paris Agreement. So their objective of becoming a climate neutral continent by 2050, they want to push it, they want to achieve it faster if they could. So because of that, they are pushing for accounting requirements that are more consistent. So they will be issuing standards guiding the disclosure of those information, and the way you presented it, I think it has to follow certain themes. They have yet to update us on that. And also, as I mentioned to you earlier, investors nowadays are not just looking at how much money you make, but also how much saving are you making to the world, on the earth. So they are looking for more information, a lot more data, including ESG. E stands for environment, S for social, and G for governance data. So that give rise or give importance to, as I mentioned to you earlier, the sustainability and also integrated reporting. Sorry, that's a repeat. It should be only 5. Sorry. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm going to show to you an example of good sustainability report so that you will take something from here and it will inspire you when you work for a company in Indonesia or in China or in Malaysia or in US or UK, so that you know these are the standards, so that you will focus and shift and prepare yourself towards this agenda. Next. So I'm taking an example from BASF. BASF is a renowned chemical company in the world, with a lot of demand on saving the environment, protecting the environment, climate change. BASF is one of those companies that will be under a hot soup because they tend to their business is about creating chemicals. So they deal with chemical and they are perceived to be destroying the environment. So then they have to react fast. They have to change the perception of stakeholders and shareholders and investors and public alike to show that even though they are chemical companies, they are not destroying the environment. In fact, they are doing the reverse. They are protecting and they are minimizing impact that could possibly originate from that. Next. And just to, for instance, they tell us this is their business model and they are into chemical, material, industrial solution, but whatever they are doing, it involves chemical. So they're saying this is their strategy. They want to push ahead with innovation, sustainability, their operations. They're using a lot of digitalization, portfolio. They want to protect people. And you and I know that there are such thing as precision agriculture, where they know when to put water at the right time, and when the AI inform them that the bud already growing, that the roots are already expanding, then they have to put in fertilizer by how much sunlight, how all these are being practiced by BASF. Next. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So BASF tells us this is their output. Output, as usual, you would see in terms of financial, how much money they are making, in terms of sales, EBIT, earnings before interest and tax. Innovation means number of patent that they are registering for that particular year worldwide, and how much sales they're making from the Accelerator products. And then the operations, how much carbon dioxide are they avoiding, They even inform you million of tons. And then in terms of environment, how much of their waste are being recycled or thermally recovered, and how much cooling water are being recirculated. So they are also telling us they're employing 24.3% women in leadership position. So we can all apply to that company. Engagement index also to see how the employees feel towards the company. And they have developed partnership through their suppliers that will screen through. They don't just engage any suppliers, but suppliers that meet their screening requirements, and also one that will preserve the environment. And also they tell us how many internal audits have they conducted in the year of 2020 to ensure that they achieve the compliance required. Next.
Sorry, Prof. Fauzia. I think that really great. Sorry to cut in the middle of your presentation. I think that really great.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to show. It's just that the slides took a long time to move. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. We'll come back to that.
Can't, because like the limited of the time that we have. I think sorry to cut off. We're gonna carry on and continue it during the Q&A session. Sure. Because based on the presentation that you've been provided, I think that's really great to all the participants, because Prof. Fauzia mentioned about the definition, giving our a clear understanding about how SDG are, and also the how as accountants, what the challenge and also the opportunity that we need to face in the future based on the age regulation, and also like she also mentioned about the AU regulation, and also how is different countries works in terms of the SDGs. So, and also she come up with the great data and also example. I think that she providing what is the good report are, and also how it's gonna be look like. But for now, from Fauzia, I'm gonna let the MC jump in because they're gonna be quiz for 10 to 15 minutes. Then after the quizzes, then we're gonna back to our Q&A, including the first speaker, Dinar Ayu. So we're gonna take the question from the participant, and how is it gonna be, and how is it gonna be? Is that fine?
Sure. Thank you.
So, all right. Thank you so much for the presentation earlier. I'm gonna call the MC and the committee to run the quiz for 10 and 15 minutes. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Surya, for facilitating the panels. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was amazing insight from both of our speaker, Mrs. Adeline and also Professor Fauzia. We all know that SDGs is something really important to talk about, and hopefully we can achieve that in 2030. So let's shift to Indonesian to make it more understandable for all of participants here. We'll shift in 1, 2, and 3. Halo semuanya, selamat siang. Apa kabar? Masih sehat? Senang? Bahagia? Atau teman-teman tiba-tiba merasa termotivasi nih dan langsung pengen berkontribusi setelah mendengar pemaparan yang luar biasa dari Mrs. Adeline dan also Profesor Fauzia. Nah, atau mungkin ada teman-teman di sini yang masih bingung ya. Tadi kayak, topiknya menarik banget, pengen deh tanya-tanya lebih mendalam, ada pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang pengen teman-teman tanya langsung ke panelis kita yang luar biasa hari ini. Nah, tapi pertanyaannya ditahan dulu ya teman-teman, karena di sini panitia sudah menyiapkan quizzes atau kuis yang sangat menarik, di mana untuk 3 pemenang utama atau top player di quizzes ini akan dapat hadiah yang akan diberikan secara langsung oleh panitia. Nah, mungkin teman-teman panitia bisa dibantu nih share kode link quizesnya. Nah, di sini teman-teman udah bisa lihat di kolom chat ada panitia atas nama NAC_Anissa Amor itu sudah mengirimkan link quizzes. Jadi teman-teman bisa buruan join karena sayang banget kalau misalnya melewatkan kesempatan untuk ikut quiz ini. Nah, kuis ini juga dalam rangka ice breaking ya teman-teman. Dari tadi kan pembahasannya agak berat gitu ya. Ngomongin internasional, pakai bahasa Inggris, terus SDGs. Pasti teman-teman juga agak bingung gitu ya. Aduh gimana nih. Nah, jadi untuk refresh kembali otaknya supaya nanti pas Q&A session pada seru banget semuanya bisa berjalan dengan lancar, teman-teman boleh banget join quizesnya. Nah, karena aku lagi berbaik hati, jadi aku akan bantu untuk membacakan kode quizzes kita hari ini. Jadi teman-teman bisa ngetik langsung. Jadi kodenya adalah 4, 3, 5, 6, 1, 5. 4, 3, 5, 6, 1, 5. Ayo teman-teman, bisa mulai join ya. Atau mungkin kalau misalnya Kak Surya mau join juga, boleh banget nih. Tapi kalau Kak Surya join nanti susah ya, kejawab semua pertanyaannya, langsung juara 1 Kak Suryanya gitu. Masa kita ngasih hadiahnya ke Kak Surya gitu ya teman-teman. Jadi untuk teman-teman partisipan diharapkan untuk mengikuti quizesnya.
I think benar sekali sih Regita. Quiznya menarik sekali as a part of the ice breaking. So, I think everyone should join the quiz because also there's rewards, really interesting rewards laterally.
Yes, exactly it is. Oh iya, Kak Surya kalau nggak salah dari Bali ya Kak?
Iya, betul sekali.
Oh, sama Kak. Aku dari Bali juga. Dari Gianyar.
Ya,
Salam kenal ya, Kak.
betul.
Oke, kita masih menunggu ya teman-teman. Untuk yang mau join bisa segera join supaya nggak kehilangan kesempatan. Oke, kita masih menunggu. Oh, ternyata sudah ada 76 orang ya teman-teman yang join. Tadi itu belum di-refresh, jadi 0 orang, nggak ada yang join. Ternyata sudah 76 orang yang bergabung bersama kita di kuisis hari ini. Teman-teman nanti jangan lupa setelah ketika menang itu di screenshot ya sebagai bukti yang akan diberikan kepada panitia. Soalnya di sini kan namanya agak macam-macam ya. Ini ada bubur kacang hijau. Sejak kapan gitu bubur kacang hijau bisa main kuisis gitu. Jadi yang namanya nggak sama kayak nama asli, diingat-ingat namanya, di screenshot sebagai bukti yang akan dikirimkan kepada panitia untuk mengklaim hadiah kalau misalnya nanti menang. Oke. Ada nasi begono. Sepertinya ini nggak bisa move on dari kantin Parma ya. Jadi namanya juga masih menu-menu makanan Parma. Oh, oke, sudah ada 100 orang sekarang yang bergabung bersama kita di Quizizz. Semangat KTTA, pasti ini tingkat akhir nih. Oke teman-teman, karena udah 100-an lebih yang join Quizizz-nya, sekarang kita akan mulai Quizizz-nya. Untuk teman-teman panitia, boleh dibantu untuk mulai. Baik. 3, 2, 1. Ayo teman-teman dikerjain. Siapa tahu nanti dapat hadiah kan lumayan ya. Oh ternyata sudah ada. Indah Namita juara satunya. Oke. Pada gercep banget ya jawab-jawabnya. Kayak nggak mikir lagi gitu. Oke, sekarang sudah di Nugraha S yang juara satunya. Oke, ternyata Nugraha masih memimpin ya dengan tingkat akurasinya 8 nih strike-nya. Berarti benar terus 9 kali, keren banget. Pasti dari tadi mendengarkan dengan seksama apa yang disampaikan oleh narasumber kita yang luar biasa. Disusul sama Nisa dan NaCl. Wah, ini pasti pas SMA suka pelajaran kimia ya, karena pakai NaCl. Asam klorida ya kalau nggak salah NaCl. Waduh, udah ada yang 12 strike. Nah, ayo teman-teman yang di bawah nggak boleh ketinggalan, nggak boleh patah semangat karena semuanya berpeluang untuk menjadi pemenang di kuisis kita hari ini. Sebagai pemacu semangatnya ya, jadi aku mengingatkan kembali untuk 3 orang yang berhasil menduduki posisi pertama, kedua, dan ketiga akan diberikan hadiah oleh panitia. Jadi teman-teman yang menang itu langsung di screenshot sebagai buktinya, kemudian dapat menghubungi panitia melalui kontak yang akan kita berikan. di sini udah terlihat ya teman-teman, ada Nugraha S yang dari 20 soal yang disediakan oleh panitia berhasil menjawab 20-nya benar semua. Berarti ini strike kalau misalnya di eventnya kayaknya 4 ya. Jadi langsung benar semua nih. Dilanjutkan oleh Nisa A dan juga M Vito dengan strike 17 dan 14. Ih, keren-keren banget nih teman-teman. Oke. Oke, teman-teman, berhubung kuisnya udah selesai ya, jadi selamat bagi pemenang kuis kita kali ini. Seru banget kan? Jadi setelah tadi dapat pemaparan materi, terus sekarang ada ice breaking quiz, terus nanti dilanjutkan lagi untuk memenuhi rasa penasaran teman-teman dengan topik kita hari ini, akan ada sesi Q&A. Nah, diingatkan sekali lagi untuk Nugraha S, Nisa A, dan juga M Vito T untuk menghubungi panitia untuk melakukan klaim hadiahnya. Nah, berhubung kuis kita sudah selesai, udah fresh kembali nih teman-teman. Jadi kita akan shift kembali ke dalam bahasa Inggris. Oke, kita akan mulai dalam 1, 2, 3. Okay guys, so we are going to talk in English again since the games is already ended, and also I know you guys are so exciting with our, our panelists, but of our panelists, Mrs. Dinar Ayu and also Professor Fauzia. So I will let Kak Surya to facilitating the panels again. So for Kak Surya, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Regita. Wow, what amazing and brilliant initiative from the committee, holding a quiz as a games and also a lot of refreshings after all that long been discussing about the how about the roles akuntan to achieve the sustainable development goals in the transformation area. So without further ado, I'm gonna invite our speakers, Miss Dinar Ayu and Prof. Fauzia, to back to our platform. Then we're gonna have a Q&A session now with our amazing participants. We can see by how enthusiastic them to answer the quiz. So without further ado, to all the participants who got any question for our both amazing speakers, Miss Dinar Ayu and Prof. Fauzia, you can type down in our chat. Or if you want to ask it directly, you can raise your hand by the reaction. Then you can be able to unmute yourself and you can address your question to one of our speakers. Okay, the Q&A session is open now. Is there any question from the participant? So while we're writing the question, I would like to ask how's everyone, especially Ms. Dinar Ayu, hearing about Prof. Fauzi was presenting about the challenges and the solution of the new rules as accountant to achieving development goals in digital era. So Ms. Dinar, are you still there and how's your feeling now?
Hi, Surya. Thank you for asking. I'm great. Greetings, Mrs. Fauzia. Such a pleasure to listen to your explanations. Amazing. I think I get loads of a new knowledge on the real role of accountants. Me myself, I graduated from accounting in bachelor, but I didn't continue my master's in accounting area. I continue to public administration, so it's a little bit of public policy. So it's really nice to listen to your explanations and your material. It was eye-opening for me myself. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms.
Fauzia.
Tina.
Really.
Likewise. It's always amazing to listen to young people with great ideas, and how to move things forward. Thank you. Nice meeting all of you. Although I can only see two faces here, but I'm sure many out there, including the MC just now, very vibrant and young spirits. I feel almost I'm also young because of the spirit that you all have, the energy that you all shared. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Dinar and Prof. Fauzia. Yeah, I think we kind of like really still writing the question. I think for the participant, if you currently unconfident using English in term to ask a question, I think it's okay also ask in Bahasa. If that okay, Ms. Dinar and Prof. Fauzia. Yes, okay, that's a yes from our speakers. If you really want to ask or still have something to discuss, we can still ask in Bahasa. I think that makes the discussion is even interested. That's personally. Is there any person to raise hand? So if there are no, I'm gonna start it. The first question, maybe just
not first question. It's just me. I'm trying to motivate. Please come forward. You are the future accountants. I mean, to all the students who are listening, you are the future accountants. Everybody starts small, and we take that small little step. So believe in yourself, and inshallah, I think you are all amazing. Indonesian students, when I was teaching them, or even teaching them now here, they have a lot of questions. So they ask very interesting questions. So please ask Miss Dina a lot of questions. She is very vibrant. Ask her.
Yeah, what a wise encouragement from Fauzia. As we know, as a young generation, I think we need to be a bit ambitious in this way, right, Prof. Fauzia?
Aku mau encourage kalau misalnya bingung bertanya soal a sustainable development goal atau peran akuntan, I think it's also relevant to ask anything about our background, Miss Fauzia background and my background. I think we all can learn from one another, right, Miss Fauzia? But I think I saw one hand there, Mr. Perdana, whom I think Surya can definitely address.
Yeah, I can see someone raise the hand, but really sorry, I can't really see who is it. But whoever raise your hand, feel free to unmute yourself or maybe open your video. The time is yours. Yes, he's Perdana Vivi. Perdana Vivi, you'd like to ask any question?
Selamat sore, Pak Surya, Bu Dinar, dan Profesor Fauzia. Saya mencobakan bertanya dengan bahasa Indonesia saja. Mungkin terkait dengan peran kita sebagai, di sini kami kan sebagai mahasiswa PKN STAN, dan ada beberapa yang sudah menjadi pegawai di lembaga pemerintah. Kemudian kalau dikaitkan dengan Sustainable Development Goals ini, apakah memang setiap lembaga atau kementerian harus memiliki objektif yang berhubungan dengan 17 goals itu, atau memang bisa dibagi seperti halnya misalnya di hubungannya dengan sosial atau pengentasan kemiskinan, kita taruh di Kementerian Sosial saja yang berbicara, kemudian terkait dengan objektif lingkungan hanya Kementerian Lingkungan saja yang berbicara, atau memang dari setiap kementerian atau lembaga harus membicarakan semua hal yang sama? Mungkin seperti itu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Mas Perdana. I'm gonna switch in bahasa, if that okay, from the committee and also from the speakers to make it more interested. Izin menyimpulkan sedikit biar clear untuk pembicara. Jadi mungkin intinya bagaimana 17 paket SDGs ini diimplementasikan di masing-masing lembaga. Apakah setiap lembaga itu harus memiliki ke-17-nya ini, atau bisa dibagi-bagi sesuai dengan kebutuhan dan kecocokan roles dari lembaga masing-masing ini. Mungkin untuk Prof. Fauzia bisa membantu menjawab pertanyaan yang disampaikan oleh Mas Perdana Rifki. Silakan.
Bisa Pak Surya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Pak Perdana, karena soalan yang bagus sekali. Semestinya kerana Bapak dari lembaga pemerintah ya. Sebetulnya juga pengalaman saya menyediakan sewaktu berurusan dengan World Bank. Ya, apa yang kebiasaannya dilakukan, maaf ya sekiranya Pak bahasa saya lebih mirip kepada bahasa Malaysia dan bukan bahasa Indonesia, tapi sekurang-kurangnya harap-harap faham, sekiranya tidak akan digarap dan disimpul oleh moderator kita, Pak Surya, insyaAllah. So, pada kebiasaannya, sesebuah negara itu, kerajaannya akan mengagih-agihkan ke-17 itu mengikut kecocokan atau kesesuaian lembaga tersebut. Contoh, kalau Bank Indonesia itu perlu melihat dari sudut stability ataupun keutuhan kewangan dan juga sistem perbankan, itu contoh. Dalam SDG 8, ekonomi dan sebagainya, kemungkinan yang itu yang diberi fokus utama. Tetapi sekiranya terkait dengan yang lain-lain juga, boleh juga dimasukkan. Pada akhirnya dilakukan one mapping, pemetaan, mapping, that means we're going to map all those initiatives and we're going to put together and see if all the 17 SDGs are covered. Kebiasaannya begitu. Terima kasih.
Yeah, I think that great answer, Prof. Fauzi. Is there any things that you want to add, Ms. Dinar, about the question?
Jadi ini pertanyaannya sama ya Mas Surya ya?
Betul.
Oke. Jadi kalau setahu saya, sepemahaman saya ya Mas Perdana, untuk penanganan SDG Sustainable Development Goal Indonesia itu pengelolaannya itu dipegang oleh Kementerian PPN yang Bappenas ya. Nah kemudian rencana-rencana itu semua itu dikoordinasikan dan disusun di sana gitu dari berbagai goals-goalsnya. Kementerian-kementerian lain itu mendukung rencana-rencana yang kemudian didisposisikan dari rencana utama yang disusun Bappenas itu. Nah, mereka bekerja sama dengan berbagai kementerian lain yang tentunya dituangkan di RPJMN jangka menengah gitu. Dan itu tidak hanya difokuskan oleh satu kementerian. Contohnya saja misalnya untuk pengembangan UMKM yang merupakan salah satu fokus SDG-nya itu untuk perekonomian inklusif ya. Nah, itu disupport langsung oleh Kementerian UMKM dan Kementerian Keuangan yang kemudian menerbitkan sukuk untuk mensupport program tersebut gitu Mas Perdana. Jadi SDG ini didisposisikan istilahnya gitu ya, atau diturunkan dari rencana besarnya di Indonesia itu dibagi-bagi dan menjadi kolaborasi, koordinasi multiple ministries gitu Mas. Tapi jadi kalau tadi pertanyaannya satu kementerian satu program, tidak Jadi biasanya dia satu program itu yang merupakan kewenangan kementerian tertentu akan di-running oleh kementerian tersebut. Gitu sih realnya. Nah, itu dikoordinasikan secara terpusat oleh Bappenas. Jadi mungkin teman-teman bisa melihat laporannya itu lebih detail di Bappenas. Gitu.
Siap, thank you. Makasih Mbak Dinar. Gimana Mas Perdana? Sudah jelas dari jawaban dari Prof. Fauzia dan Mbak Dinar atau memang ada hal yang perlu masih dielaborasi terkait pertanyaannya?
Sudah cukup sepertinya.
Siap, terima kasih banyak Mas Perdana. So there's a question also in our chat box. So from Nana Asana, she's asking about, is the current digital area is very important for us to achieve the goals of the accounting sustainable. However, in reality in Indonesia, we still face the challenge in the form of not all areas having a good interest access. So what can be done by facing this challenge? Thank you. That's a great question. I think it's from Nana Asbila. I'm gonna start it from Ms. Dinar now. Is there any opinion about this question, Ms. Dinar?
Yeah, actually, in fact, I don't know if I should answer this through Indonesia or English, but because the question was thrown in English, I would probably try to answer using English. So, simply put, internet access is one of the main things that my group proposed to Undp Accelerator Lab as something that could easily scale up grassroots innovations. So through our reports, we concluded that internet access played such a massive role, ginormous role, in fact, when it comes to supporting young generations, trying to scaling up and kind of develop their small house-based and community-based innovation. So it is playing a big role. Now, what has been done by Indonesia, I guess as an accountant and as students from PKN STAN, we can easily open up the state budget of the year and see how many have we contributed to the ICT development throughout Indonesia. I think for the past 10 years, we've all witnessed how internet has developed in Indonesia, how now we're trying to get from 4G to 5G, and how it actually has changed quite a lot for the past 5 years. I went to, I wouldn't say rural Java, but I think a small city in Java just a week ago, and realized the changes I felt in my internet access without having to be connected to a Wi-Fi in that particular area, just down by a Bromo mountain. I can easily access it through my phone. It was full and it was in HSDPI. I know there are plenty of other more rural areas in Indonesia that might not have such access, but I think we're going to a really good direction. And ICT development infrastructure has been the main focus of Indonesian government, knowing that it plays such a huge role in various sectors, and it highly supporting other developments and infrastructures from other parts too, especially after the pandemic. So I think we've all put our interest in that particular focus, ICT development. And yes, it's in our agenda. I guess that's what I could simply say.
Yeah, great, Dina. I want to highlight where they can access the data if they want to say things like that. Sorry, Dinar, just to be clear to the all participants.
Oh, you can easily just get to kemenq.go.id, or basically the website of a Ministry of Finance, and go see our state budget, and you could see how Indonesia has actually spare trillions of rupiah, probably it's like billions of US dollars now, for the development of ICT infrastructures where they're addressed. And if you want to see in more details, you can easily go to the Ministry of Communication and Information website. They always has project reports on different kinds of agenda in order to support the ICT development throughout Indonesia. And it's all available online for free. So if you're being trying to be critical over the development of ICT, I could probably tell you that I think our country is going to the correct directions, and it is there. The reports are there. You can see that how it's developed after years, and we all can literally supervise that in years to come.
Great, Dinar. Thank you for highlighting where there can resources be available. And to Prof. Fauzia, is there any point that you want to add regarding the same question? What can be done to face that challenge?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think a very good question asked by a student, I suppose. Here you go, your talent, future talent. But I appreciate what Ms. Dinar has explained, which is a very insightful coming from Accelerator Lab, looking the ICT infrastructure development and on. But I'd like to take your question from a slightly different angle, because your question saying in this digital era, how could it achieve the sustainable development goal when our internet connection may not be as good? My answer to that, the sustainable development goal does not, although it is very important, but it does not depend solely on just ICT. For instance, if you look at the 17 goals, no poverty, as I mentioned, elaborate just now, we don't need digital. We need digital, but then again, it can be done even under the present system, as long as we are clear. That's why I said the first and foremost thing in order to change is that our acceptance of the fact that we are all here responsible to help zero hunger. Nobody is empty stomach. Good health and well-being. Again, good health is access to hospital, medication, and on. Good quality education. Everybody would go to school. Of course, part of it in pandemic, we depend a lot on internet. But gender equality and all that would not require so much of internet. But within the limitation that we have now, we can still achieve, in my view, the Sustainable Development Goal, as long as everybody accepted the fact that we must help one another no matter what. I'm sure all of you are aware of the story about an African boy, who received an award from United Nations because of he is not educated, but he wished to go to school, but he can't afford to pay school fees. But through his reading in the school library, he actually can develop the windmill out of energy from the wind. He turned it to become a windmill, and with that windmill, they're able to irrigate the water into their farms, and that survived. The whole community survived from famine because of that innovation. So that little thing, you see, it doesn't involve ICT for that matter, but the boy was clever to use whatever resources he has in place to turn that into innovation to help the community to feed people by plowing water, by putting water, irrigating water into their farms. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's really insightful as well. And it's really interesting, Prof. Fauzia, how we can shave it from a different perspective in terms of the equation. Wow, it's really interesting. I learned a lot. This opened my eyes as well, personally. So thank you, Prof. and Ms. Dinar Ayu. And I think we got a couple of questions left. However, really sorry because the time limit we got. We can't really go further by that question. But however, I think Prof. Fauzia and Ms. Dinar Ayu is really open. They can contact. You can contact them by their personal contacts, or maybe through their emails, or maybe discussing more about what's this really want to address from this talk show. Thank you so much for this great talk show, Prof. Fauzia and Dinar Ayu. Is there any conclusion words from both of you to end this a great talk show? I can start from Prof. Fauzia.
Thank you, Mr. Surya. I mean, to me, I would like to just put it very simple so that you all can remember about it. Remember, change starts with us, ourselves. If we wish to see changes happen, we ourselves need to change. Because if we don't have passion for all this to happen, no matter how good, how beautiful the plans are, even though budget, like one of the questions saying, how do we make sure that, you know, everything that they put in actually being spent and implemented the way it should? That can only be achieved if our heart and our passion, as I said, if we are into this, we really want to initiate change, and inshallah, God will assist us. Because you must remember, as an accountant, at the end of whatever we do, we are held accountable. Not just accountant. In this world, maybe accountants is being held accountable for the reports that they produce. But in life thereafter, everybody is accountable for what we do in this life. Thank you very much, Mr. Surya.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Fauzia. Also, the pleasure is mine. And also, any conclusion word from Ms. Dinar Adeline to all participants today?
Yeah, so I think Ms. Fauzia has concluded them all. I think it's correct. I can definitely relate to that. We're all held accountable for whatever we do in life. But we're also young, so we might have a change of heart, had a change of interest, has a change of hobby along the way. And I think that's somehow a way to learn itself. So if you're in the middle of studying and learning, as I have mentioned earlier, I guess do what you are currently doing best and trying to get a grasp of knowledge from different sources as much as you can. The world is now wide open. There's no such thing as border anymore. You can learn from anyone, anywhere that easily these days. So seize that opportunity and make sure that you're well equipped. And you can, if you haven't found your interest just yet, don't feel down, because you can find it along the way. Somewhere later on in the future, you can find something that you can put your heart on wholeheartedly. And by then, I think you can start to do that by joining different events, seeing different people, listening to different stories, and somehow in the future you can start to build up your own interests, and you can develop yourself from that and trying to contribute back to the community from there. So I guess that's it from me. I'll be very happy to receive any kind of questions or like extra guidance on anything. Just drop me a message through my Instagram account, as I mentioned in the chat. So yeah, I guess that's it from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Dinar. What a amazing conclusion, and really nice word, I can say. Let's because the conclusion means this is our end of the talk show today. As a moderator, let me also give a bit of conclusion in terms how the talk show goes. I think the really key based on our discussion today is how we're gonna react as in the change. So just like in terms of, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. So that's so like Miss Dinar Ayu say, that's like how important the resilient are, and in terms of the being a great accountant to achieve the sustainable development goals, it's not only a bunch of package. It's just like next to your step door. It's just like take your interest. That's fine if there's changes challenge along the way, but just still try to do the best for yourself, especially if you are studying. Let's just do our best in our studying, do more and find our great interest to a great opportunity in the future. That's it for me. Thank you so much for having me and having all the great speakers today. I'm really sorry if there are any mistake that will be made during the talk show. Thank you so much again. I'm gonna give this time again back to our lovely MC. Time is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Wayan Surya. You are amazing. Thanks for facilitating the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, we almost reached outside a fruitful discussion. We gained so much knowledge that makes me want to make a good movement as soon as possible. And I bet I'm not the only one who feel it, but most of the participants here are also feel the same way. Let me conclude by thanking once again all panelists, keynote speaker, and moderator, Mr. Budi Waluyo, Mrs. Dinar Ayu Adeline, Professor Dr. Fauziah MD Type, and Mr. Iwayan Surya Wirasdiarta. Thank you so much. And also thanks to participants who watched this webinar until the end. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a photo session to wrap NAC International Webinar 2021. All participants are expected to turn on the video, and don't forget to put your best smile. Once again, all participants are expected to turn on the video. Okay, the instructions will be guided by me. For the operator, please be prepared. We'll start in 1, 2, and 3. Okay, once more for the next page. Maybe we can try another pose. Okay, we'll start in 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's all amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you that for the attendance form, you can see on the screen to claim the S certificate for today's webinar. The attendance forms will be open for 1 hour. As you can see on the screen, the presentations link and also the password. The password is development goals. Development goals. Okay. This link will be closed at 1 hour. In 1 hour. Okay, you guys can take your time. Ladies and gentlemen, to complete this webinar, let's thank to God because this webinar has been run smoothly. Prayer, start. Thank you. It's done. On behalf of the team, I'd like to thank you for joining this webinar through Zoom or YouTube. I'd like to apologize for any mistakes that accidentally happened. But before that, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Zenius Education and Piranha Smart Center, and also our media partner, Acara Mahasiswa, Info Bali Today, Tin.Serang, Infolomba.SMA, and Radio Blast. For the panelists and also the moderator are allowed to leave this Zoom meeting. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for sharing with us. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay. Okay. So guys, I'm Regita Megaarta, signing off and hoping to see you soon on the next opportunity. Goodbye.
Recording stopped.